At this point, I want to thank the Arts and Law and Social Sciences faculty for their support. The university support's really important for this lecture series, even though the lecture series is older than the university itself, that's what I'd say. And the other person I want to thank is Helen Piper, I'm going to hand over to now, who's played a big role in organising the lecture series this year. Helen will tell you a bit about the lecture series and then introduce our speakers.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure I need this microphone. Can you hear me without it? Yeah. My name's Helen Piper. I'm from the Department of Film and Television here at the university. We've been teaching television as an academic subject for many years now, so it's been a great pleasure to have the opportunity to collaborate on these autumn lectures and have the chance of these open conversations and talks about the art of television. The idea of television as a public art is the theme, and this dates really from the kind of middle of the last century and television's youth, and coincided with a lot of debate about television's future and its creative potential. I think it was always recognised, even by those, well, perhaps not by those who didn't accept it as an art form, but it was always recognised that television's possibility was very much bound up with its public reach and timeliness and its ability to intersect with everyday lives. And if we kind of fast forward to the present, there's still a lot of talk about television, but much of it around how it's changed, around its transformation into a multi-platform, multi-billion global market. The average person in the UK still watches over 4 hours of television a day. But it's plain to see that as a national audience, we have radically fragmented, watching different things at different times, as ever in different places. But there are some exceptions to this, programs that manage to gather a very large audience or chime with a wider cultural conversation. And probably the most cited example of late is the ITV drama from last year, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Now, not only was this the most watched television drama of 2024, it also caused or prompted an extraordinary public response. There was a sort of outpouring of empathy and outrage in equal measure at the event shown, the injustices suffered by the sub-postmasters wrongly convicted of crimes against the post office. But what's really interesting, I think, for our purposes this evening, is that it wasn't television's ability to reveal these injustices that prompted the outcry. It was the dramatisation of the victims' experiences that really reached people. And I feel like that kind of foregrounds the art of television in a way, because it was about the story that was told about the events, and the kind of effect. It was the manner of the telling of the story. And so, I mean, whereas impact such as this is not television's only artistic achievement, and I'm sure we're going to talk about other possibilities this evening, the fact is that the impact in this instance was achieved by artistic means. So I can't really think of anyone better to talk to about the public art of television drama than the writer of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office herself, and a writer, if you don't mind me saying, of some 30 years experience prior to that. So I'm really delighted to introduce Gwyneth Hughes this evening. Okay, so I mean, where to start? Maybe we could start by where it all began, how you got into writing for television in the first place.
I was a newspaper reporter. I trained in journalism, and do shout if you can't hear me. I'll do this. Yeah. That came about completely by accident. I mean, nothing in my life has been intentional. I don't quite know how I managed to get to Bristol tonight. I'm famous for getting lost and not knowing what I'm doing. I just sort of fell into journalism and did that for a while. It was great fun. And then I went to work for Yorkshire Television on the regional news desk. I don't know what your programme down here is called. Ours is called Calendar, notorious for not much, principally that I had to sit next to Richard Whiteley, which was enormous fun for some years. Learned quite a lot about television storytelling just from working in TV news. Went on to documentaries, did quite a lot of that. But I'd always wanted to write fiction. I'd always wanted to write, to make stuff up, to kind of, only might say journalist. But hey, I mean, really make stuff up. And I just didn't know how to go about that. I think a lot of people, I don't know how many people in the room are writers, want to be writers. You just don't know how to do that. And I felt that I didn't come from the kind of family that did that. I mean, everything about it was just a mystery. Mm-hmm. So I sat down one day and just wrote a story, and a short story, and I sent it off to Radio 4 Morning Story, which I think still exists, and they accepted it and put it on the radio. And I ran away from the job I was doing, sat in the car park, listen to my story right on the radio. It was the most exciting 15 minutes of my life. They paid me £71. About 3 weeks' work. And after that, I just I kept pushing at doors, trying to get that break into television drama. And one thing I can reveal is it isn't just one break. I got my break, I got accepted onto the bill. In the old days when there were 24-minute, do you remember they were like little 24-minute things, little morality tales, and I had the fantastic policeman's legs at the end, remember? And I did one of those. And I said, I've arrived, but this is wrong. Because you need another break the next year and another one after that. You know, you need your first hour-long thing, you need your first serial, you need your first original serial, and every single one of those is a massive thing that you have to fight for and bang on doors and doesn't come and sit in your lap. But somehow then after a few years of this I realised I could make my living at it. So I packed in the documentaries and just went home and wrote full time, and I've been doing that ever since.
So you just wrote one episode of the bill, or you were on a kind of team writing regular?
Well, I wrote 3 in the end.
Okay.
They had a big team of about 40 writers at any one time. And I think what's really funny about that was that you had to invent your own little story and you had to write it. It was a complete nightmare, really difficult. It took me a year to write my first one, 24 minutes took me a year. But what I realised was we were all writers, we didn't meet each other, we were just out there, you know, in the universe, writing away. And the whole thing was like a beauty contest, because we just would watch the bill and we'd go, oh, I like him. Oh, well, she's a bit boring. And you would write your episode about the officers that you liked. So we were literally after a while I realised that the guillotine would fall on the actors that we out there who never met each other didn't like. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Probably why I only lasted 3 episodes, killing people off. But my dad was a police officer, so he was very thrilled with me for working on the bill, because he thought it was realistic, not like any of the other cop shows about, yeah.
So did you see your writing future in crime? So
I did quite a lot of crime, because
Right.
crime was what there was. I mean, crime was huge, and it still is huge, isn't it? It's very, very big business. So I did quite a lot of crime. I did a thing called Dangerfield, remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I embarked on writing a Prime Suspect, but then I got sacked. So the story that I was going to write for Prime Suspect became my first original. That was a real piece of luck. My first piece of original drama, which was called Blood Strangers.
Oh, well, yes, we've got some images of some of the things you've worked on. I think we've got one of that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most of it's quite a long time. Look at Sheridan Smith, aged about 12. Whoa! Yeah, really long time ago. And Paul McGann and Caroline Quentin. And I'm very proud of this show, which went out in about 2000, because we broke the story of the grooming gangs. This was a story about this woman's daughter disappearing into the clutches of an Asian grooming gang in Yorkshire. And I had picked this story up from people who were working with girls like that in Bradford. I was astonished and amazed, never heard anything like it. And it went out to, you know, nothing then happened for some years until it did, and now we are where we are.
So it was loosely based on fact. It wasn't.
It was
a factual drama.
No, it was a factual drama in that it was, you know, journalistically based, but it wasn't about a real girl or a real anything. It was just inspired by this story that I come from Bradford.
Okay.
Yeah. What was and I was a lot more free to make stuff up with that story, that kind of story, than when you're really doing a true story where you're naming actual people in the actual real world. That's another discipline altogether, and I didn't do that until a bit later.
Yeah, we can talk about some of those shortly. Because actually, you've worked across a really, well, it's very surprising to me, a broad range of genres. You've also got like fairly significant reputation for classic adaptations, which seems to be a quite a radical jump from from crime and from starting on the bill. I've got some images of that, I think, as well. Have you? What brought you to the classics? These are just three of them: Mystery of Edwin Drood, Vanity Fair, and Tom Jones quite recently for ITV.
Yeah, so these are my favourite things.
Okay. Oh, what writing classic adaptation?
Well, just not really classic adaptation, but history things. My degree was pretty historical, and I really like entering the world of the past and trying to write dialogue that is comprehensible to us, but still works and everything. So yeah, I mean, I loved all these things, but they're rare. There's not many of them. They're always falling out of fashion. Oh, nobody wants costume drama, says everyone. Oh, what's this Bridgerton coming over? They're always telling you that you can't do them anymore. But no, I love them. I love them. I love the frocks. Yeah, and it's a good break from all this very miserable stuff that you find yourself doing quite a lot of.
But they're pretty weighty books, aren't they? I mean, Vanity Fair, I think we've got an image of it. I mean, that's a daunting work to adapt that's been done a great many times in other versions. Is that not a bit intimidating?
Is it intimidating? I think if I was intimidated by it, I wouldn't do it, would I? So
yeah.
It's more inspiring.
Yeah.
So it's a chance to get paid money to sit at home in the company of Jane Austen or William Makepeace Thackeray and spend time with that amazing genius, and try to work out what they were thinking and who they were, and just live with that book. I mean, Vanity Fair is my favourite book anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, Michael Palin went on telling everybody it was his favourite book, and then realised he hadn't read it. Just confess this eventually. I've been telling everybody.
Because interestingly enough, I mean, originally, you gave Thackeray an on-screen role. He speaks direct to camera, doesn't he?
Yes, he does rather briefly. So obviously in the book, Thackeray is very present. He's commenting on everything. He's not a character, but he is very present. He tells you what he thinks. He's a voice in the book. And I wanted to try and find a way to do that too, because that seemed to be quite Thackeray-ish, and I wanted to be, with him and have him sitting on my shoulder throughout. So we thought, well, who could play Thackeray and how would we do this? Various really daft names came up, and then Palin's name came up. So we rang him up, and he said, well, I can't do very much because I've got this book on, and my publisher says he'll kill me if I don't finish it by Christmas. So, well, can you just come and do the introduction, to episode 1? Oh, well, I can wear a frock and just come out with us and have some fun. Yeah, I'll do that. So then we have Michael Palin to introduce us. I go, he's coming tomorrow. We can't just do one episode. Let's write something for every episode. So I wrote 7 intros, 7 episodes, and an outro for the end. And Michael arrived on the set went, oh, I arrived to do 1 episode of Vanity Fair, and lo, I said, by magic, I'll do 7 episodes of Vanity Fair. It was such a trooper. We did it. Didn't ask for more money or anything. We just had a ball with it and did it. Did all the episodes. Bless him.
So you were still writing while it was in production?
Yeah, you were still writing.
Yeah.
Because things go wrong. The weather changes. The actress is ill. Something, they drop scenes, and if they drop a scene, you never get it back.
Yeah.
And so you've got to work out if there's some info in that scene that you need to kind of squash in somewhere else. And yeah, sometimes it just goes catastrophically wrong when you're there for day after day. But mostly not as bad as that, especially as you get more experience.
Okay.
But yeah, you do have to be sort of there in spirit at 5 o'clock in the morning when the crew turn up in case they found something, that they can't do, or the actress won't do. Or,
I mean, with something there's been so many previous versions of, is there sort of pressure on you to be kind of different when you first take it on and decide how you're going to do it?
I wouldn't say there's pressure to be different. What there is pressure to be, and it's really annoying, is relevant.
Yes.
I call this the R word, and I hate it. It's like, what do you mean relevant? This is a classic. It's always and forever relevant to every time, in every space, in every country, in every culture. It's a classic. That's what that means. Yeah, but does it speak to today's Oh, you can imagine the kind of cobblers, it's very academic type cobblers that you get. So then you have to try and find a way to do that, or at least pretend to do that. Yeah, I don't take all that very seriously.
I want to sort of sell it.
Sell it like, it's all about a modern young woman,
Well, yes, I mean, Becky
Sharp.
Sharp.
But you have to pretend.
But you're right, there are kind of timeless, sassy things about her that you've just got to draw attention to, I suppose. But you do really. So, one of the things I thought was quite interesting was your original drama of Jane Austen, Miss Austen Regrets, which you then wrote. Well, actually, you wrote it before. Was it before Edwin Drood or after Edwin Drood?
Before, I think it's my first costume drama.
I think I've got
that was a sort of like a biopic.
Yes.
About the last 2 years of Jane's life.
Yes. So how did that come about?
Well, that was just a pitch. I mean, it was just a pitch. I read Claire Tomalin's biography of Jane, which is great, and was amazed to discover that she had all these sort of offers of marriage. She wasn't just a spinster. She was someone who turned men down, who turned down the only life that was really available to women. And I thought it was really interesting. And we just started talking about it. And I don't know, we just said to the BBC, hey, what about a thing about the last 2 years of Jane's life where Jane Austen reviews her romantic choices? And, because it was then and not now, they went, yeah. They used to, yeah. And so this thing was written, and I loved it. I loved writing. You can imagine. I mean, all this, spending a year in a room with a great genius. I spent a year with Jane, and that's like quite hard because she's going, really, you're really going to do that? That was daunting.
Well, it's got to be daunting to put words into the mouth of Jane Austen.
Lots of words from her letters, actually.
Right.
I always try to work very much from people's. If there's letters, and diaries, I'll use them. So quite a lot, and then I just, at that time, so this is quite a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, I think. I was single, divorced, a bit miserable, a bit fed up. Jane Austen, the writers, miserable romantic choices and mistakes was very much up my street. Wrote it, we were in the process of filming it when I met my now husband. Everything changed, grandchildren, you name it, completely changed. And I look at this now and think, it was probably my most personal thing ever. Because it just hit me at that point in my life when I really was. You know the thing where you think, should Jane fall in love as a young woman? And there was that other film, that Becoming Jane, about her relationship with a young man called Tom Froy, which I never really believed in. But when you read Persuasion, that relationship she describes between Admiral Croft and Mrs. Croft, and how they gallop about their estate on their carriage, and they're incredibly close, and a late marriage. And that's what she wanted. She wanted that late, she was still looking for that. She would have married the right man, but she died, so that was the end of that.
Well, we've actually got a clip of it, quite near the ending. Actually, now you've mentioned that. Spoiler.
Sorry, spoiler alert. The girl dies.
Let's have a look. Sorry, my rubbish editing at the end there. So to inhabit Jane, you read her novels presumably, and you said you read a lot of her letters. Does some of the dialogue come directly from the letters then?
Yeah, sometimes, but more when she's being witty, not when she's being serious, because the letters are very witty, So yeah, not that scene, obviously. I reread the novels, discovering along the way that I, just like Michael, had not read all of them. I've read them all. I'll reread all that. Yeah. So read them and read all her letters, which have all been put together by an amazingly hard-working academic who's just collected them all, and they're fantastic. They're just really interesting, and out of that came this film. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! And you also subsequently worked on other biographical dramas. I think we've got a few, but there are a few original dramas. There's where are we? The Girl, which is about Alfred Hitchcock's relationship with the actress Tippi Hedren.
The last Hitchcock blonde, which was well, it was just great to work on. You know, to get to write about the old Hollywood, and also these it's a transatlantic, a mid-Atlantic story, because he's British, she's American, and you know, why shouldn't I write it as a Briton? Because most of those American stories don't get a look in. It was really a fabulous thing to be involved in. Yeah, enjoyed it. It was also, it was nominated for more BAFTAs than any other programme kind of ever, like 9 or something, and won one, the most obscure. What was that in a row? I didn't win.
Oh no! Which one did it win?
Production design.
Oh right, okay.
Which is not a small thing, but
was it filmed in the UK?
No, it was filmed in Cape Town, standing in for Los Angeles in the 1950s.
Oh, okay.
So that's what Cape Town looks like. I don't know if you've been there. It's very LA in the 1950s. A few cars, and, you know, mad clothes, and yeah.
Yes, because there's a lot of scenes where they arrive at the studio. Yeah. I did wonder where they were.
Yeah,
Cape
Town.
Fascinating. And some other originals as well. Again, across so many different genres. There was 5 Days, followed which was a thriller, a crime thriller, but very much about the personal relationships between the cast and interwoven. And 5 Days 2 followed that, and then a ghost story, which. Remember Me, which I confess I hadn't realised that. I remember watching it at the time. I hadn't realised that you'd written it. That was quite a departure, was it not? A ghost story?
Well, yes, it sort of was. I mean, the thing is, all stories are the same. You know, they're all the same, really. So that's just the sort of the engine of them is the same. And the thing about a ghost story, I've always loved ghost stories. Not very scary ones. In fact, the older I get, the more wussy I get. But a ghost story gives you access to the most powerful feelings of loss.
Yes.
And revenge and, you know, paying back, like really big, powerful, universal, emotional subjects that you can't, only a ghost story can really let you do. Because if you do all that stuff not as a ghost story, it's like too heated, it's too operatic, it's too sort of mad. But yeah, just this relationship that this very old man had with the woman who looked after him as a small child, and how that comes back to haunt him. I thought it was just great.
Yeah, I did too. And they're all awash with grief, aren't they? Jodie Comer plays someone who works in a care home, doesn't she? And
so
she's got her own grief story, hasn't she?
17-year-old Jodie, she appeared like this vision, and we went, oh God, she's special. And the boss at BBC said, I remember him saying, I think you found a new leading lady.
Yes, look how many you. I'm fascinated by your comment that all stories are the same. The engine is the same.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, obviously there are differences in just the sort of set dressing and the kind of family gags there are, and so on. But you know, stories are not like real life. Yeah, because real life is really muddling. And you repeat the same mistakes. Round and round you go, round and round you go. You never get out of the spiral of uselessness that you inhabit all the time. And that's why we have stories, to remind us it's possible to get to the end. And they always get to the end. You have a beginning, middle, end. You have a character who wants, desires something so much that he'll do anything to get to the end, to get to it. And he'll either live or die in the attempt. And it doesn't really matter if it's a little sweet story or a big scary ghost story. Someone wants something and will do anything to get it. That's the story. That's how stories work. I mean, I'm not saying anything original. This is just Hollywood lore. This is the Hollywood version of what I've just said. Is they all talk about the desire line. Every story runs on the desire line, like a train line. The desire, and the plot is all the things that get in your character's way. So that's where you start with, but you don't always. It's not like I always know exactly what my character wants when I set out. You know, kind of don't often. You discover it. It's a bit like you discover when you write Who Done It. I don't at least ever know who done it. I get to the end and find out who done it. Oh wow! And then go back and fix it. You know, with the right sorts of clues to get us back there. I mean, I'm sure there are brilliant writers who do know who've done it and who have the whole thing in their head, but that's not me. You know, I sort of get there and then go back and fix it. But yeah, I do think you can embark on any story in any genre by just doing stories, starting from here, going from there. When you work for a commercial channel, you've got commercial breaks. Brilliant! You know, little cliffhangers every 10 minutes, how fantastic. And you can lose entire chunks of the story in the commercial break, nobody ever notices. You jump 10 years. something really expensive, you've got the money to film, sort of put it in the commercial break and nobody will realise that you didn't actually show them. So there's a lot of, obviously, tricks of the trade there, but there is a fundamental principle that the story is bringing order out of the chaos that is ordinary life. You know, it makes life mean something. And you get to the end, and it's got to be satisfying, hasn't it? It doesn't have to be happy, or even sometimes comprehensible. It can be open, but it has to satisfy you. It has to make you think it was worth sitting there for 6 hours or long.
Has to make sense of the kind of trajectory.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, thinking then about your sort of much later work, which a lot of it has been true story drama over the last sort of decade, I suppose there we are. Got some. This is not very responsive. This thing. This is you wrote a whole series of factual dramas. One being historical, Dark Angel, about a child serial killer.
She didn't kill children, she mainly killed her husbands. She was England's first serial killer, woman serial killer. And combo of the crime thing and the costume thing. Yeah. It was fun to do. And
then some more contemporary ones recently. Sorry, I am dutifully pressing this. Here we are. Got some more contemporary ones recently, which are, now it's carried away and gone too far. Honour, which was about an honour killing of Banaz Mahmoud, Doing Money, about a Romanian sex trafficking ring, and Three Families, about the pre-2019 anti-abortion laws in Northern Ireland and how they affected women's lives. I mean, these were all thematically heavy stuff, and they are all based on fact, and they are all dealing with real people whose stories have been entrusted to you to tell. I just wondered how you kind of model those into a story.
They are, they came along at once, like buses, you know, and I think it was because there are a couple of other writers who do this work, but they're all men. And there wasn't, I don't think there still is, another female writer. So, you know, what puts all these together is obviously they're very female-centric stories. And when you're doing, I'm not saying that a man couldn't write them, I would never say that, you know. If you say a man can't write a woman, well, Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, you know. But when it comes to approaching people who've already been traumatised and in difficulties, you may find that it's easier for a woman to talk to Kurdish girls who've been menaced by honour violence. The Romanian girls wouldn't have talked to a man, you know, because they've been traumatised by those things. So I just was there, and when these stories came along, and got a name for doing them and doing them without getting the broadcasters into trouble because, you know, the ethical considerations are enormous. You can imagine you're working with people who've had terrible time. Yeah. And what you absolutely don't want to do is make that worse. I mean, you want to be part of the solution for them. You get people long to have their story told, but you want them to feel at the end of it, like at the end of their story, that they're satisfied. You know, the ending of their story has worked. But you're still looking at a great mass of material. When I say they're all the same, what I really mean is you've got a great mass of material, and that might be Fancy Fair, or it might be a whole load of interviews you've conducted with somebody like this, or it might just be a whole load of stuff you've made up in your head. Either way, it's a big mass of material that you then have to try to make sense of and pull the story out of, you know, and knit the story together. It's like it's the wool that you just shaved off the sheep, and now you're making the jumper. It's that sort of relationship, and it's always a sheep. There's always a sheep. Where did I get that from us? Yeah, that's a new one.
So the sheep is like your narrative kind of arc.
The sheep is all the stuff that
Yeah.
you've gathered together from whatever source, your imagination, interviews, a book.
Yeah.
That's the sheep, and then you take that sheep and you turn its wool into something. The process is still the same.
This is a metaphor I've never heard before.
No, I've never used it before. I'm not sure how successful it is. I might not use it again.
So, I mean, the process, you say you talk to, Kurdish women, you talk to, women who've been directly affected by these stories. How is that a kind of lengthy process? Is that the first thing you do when you're writing these stories?
Yeah, the first thing you do is go and see them. You've got to make sure that they're actually up for it. That they understand. You've got to talk to them a lot about what the process is going to be like, what it's going to be like to be played by an actress, how they're going to feel about the publicity, how much of that they're going to want to take part in. It's a big thing. They've got to be ready to climb aboard the bus and go with you on it. And you've got to reach a position of a lot of trust, because they can see the script, but anybody who's doing film and TV knows the script is completely unreadable. It is a knitting pattern. You can't really read a script and really form a view about what it's going to look like on screen. They are difficult to read, and they can read it and still not really know how it's going to be. So they have to, you have to be in a position of enormous trust with them. And if that goes wrong, I mean, it's only gone wrong for me once on a film that I was very proud of. That it was a good film, but right at the last minute, the Daily Mail got hold of one of the participants and. I mean, it just killed our poor little film. Just the Mail banging on. Well, obviously what they said was wrong, but you can't. If that happens, you're stuffed. You never recover from that. And that film didn't recover from it. So that's never happened to me since. Touch. Is this wood?
No, I shouldn't think so.
You really don't want to fall out. I mean, when you do a twist story. So when you're doing other kinds of stories, you've got a lot of people to please. So obviously you need to please your boss, the broadcaster, you need to please the audience, or kind of think of how to please the audience. You need to please yourself, your own kind of standards. But when you're working on a true story, more important than any of that is you need to please them. You need them to feel it was worth their time and that you have helped. And that's massive. They're much more work. I don't know why I do so many of them. They're twice so much work as anything else.
Yes, they must be. So it's you're telling their story for them. Is that how you see it? You see it as you're being their voice in a way.
Giving them a voice.
Which kind of brings us quite neatly to probably your most famous work today, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Oh goshness, hang on. There we are. Who came up with the idea to make a drama of this? Because the scandal had been running for 20 years, hadn't it? So.
And it had a lot of coverage in. So Private Eye had done a lot of stuff. A journalist called Nick Wallace had done a lot of stuff, and there'd been stuff, oodles of stuff. But I read some of that stuff, and I didn't understand the story. I remember thinking, that just sounds mad. That kind of thing doesn't happen in this country. I didn't understand it. I don't think anybody did. And I went into it going, oh, at least if I do this job, then I'll understand it. And I think when it came to transmission, loads and loads of people were in the same position I've been in, who were going, I don't understand this story, and this is a really nice, easy way to understand it. There was a sort of pent-up feeling that I ought to know more about this, and it's just too confusing. I mean, I remained very confused about lots of it. I can't do computers, I can't do accountancy. I'd be ringing up Helen Bates. I know you've explained this to me 9 times, but can you just go through it again? Because maybe that made me the right writer, because I started from such a low level of understanding that I was able to, write it in a way that meant other people could understand it. But your question was where it came from. So it's funny, isn't it? I don't know why nobody else has suggested it. It does sound a bit dry, the Post Office, and the people involved were really, really unfashionable people, right? They are not urban or young or kind of sexy. They are not the kind of people that television moguls want to make programmes about. They are the absolute opposite of that. Rural mostly, middle-aged and elderly. A lot of them quite small C conservative, but still that's also not interesting to television mogul. and mostly white. When they weren't white, they were Asians of a very, very British stripe, Asians who liked the Queen. And, they were very small C conservative people, not fashionable. So it was my great delight to bring people like that, to the telly and really, I thought, unreported kind of people. We bang on a lot about diversity, don't we? Mm-hmm. But I think that those people, the people who took part in that film, they are a diversity issue. And I was really thrilled to, be able to write about them. Mm-hmm. On top, and obviously also the ITV audience, mostly people like that. So when you're broadcasting, you want people to see their own lives on the telly, and there was a load of people seeing their own lives on the telly. Still not answered your question, which was about how.
No.
So a producer was a documentary producer, met her own sub-postmaster in tears, said, "What's the matter?" And she's told her, and she said, "Oh my God, I should make a documentary about this." And then she thought about it and realised that she thought it would make a better drama. On no basis, no knowledge, because she'd never been involved in it. It would make a better drama than it. So she took it to ITV, and ITV said, "Oh yeah, that does sound quite interesting. Give Gwyn a ring." They rang me, and I said, "Oh, it does sound interesting, let's do it." And what was so weird was they then announced it, that we were doing it, whereupon the phones went mad with everybody, all the other writers ringing up, saying, "Can I write it? Can I write it?" It was like, all the way through this has been this pent-up demand thing. It was like nobody thought it could be done because it was a bit boring, a bit dry, and they're all too old. And yet suddenly now it's been commissioned. And the BBC said, "Well, we should be doing this story." And a few weeks later, I happened to sit next to at lunch, big head honcho at the BBC, who I'd never met. And she said, "Yeah, we should be doing that." I felt like she was sacking people right, left and centre because they had failed to pull this story in. But it was always there.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe it was the unfashionability of the clientele that meant that nobody wanted to do it. So then off we went and did it. And there was still COVID. So, this thing about talking to people about their real terrible lives. I mean, I was being asked to conduct my first interviews on Zoom. What do you know? Zoom is horrible at the best of times, isn't it? And as soon as the restrictions were left, we leapt in the car and did a sort of world tour and went to see everybody. And it was so fun because everybody remembers COVID, but you hadn't met anybody, you hadn't seen anybody new for such a long time. And I remember the first person I met was the woman, Gina, who was the widow of the suicide.
Yeah.
And I walked up, she was the first person literally I met, and I was walking up her garden path to knock on her door thinking, what am I doing? What is, this is awful. This is not a way for a grown woman to earn a living. Of course, she opened the door and she was lovely, welcoming, really wanted to tell Martin's story, really wanted him to be remembered and recognised. And we were away, and everybody wanted their story told. And what was amazing, most amazing, very touching, was we could only tell a few. We had 3 hours. That's 3 times 45 minutes. No, 4. We're talking about 4 times 45 minutes. But that is 3 hours. And there were thousands of them. Thousands and thousands of these victims. And we had to choose some. And all the ones we didn't choose were so generous about it. Never mind, as long as somebody's story gets told. They were so lovely. Everybody was lovely.
So right from the beginning, did you know this was going to be a story about the fight for justice? That was the narrative.
Yes, so we knew that
drive.
It would be. I think we were very keen to get further into that.
Right.
We had tussles because I wanted to do more of the sad victim stories before we started the fight back. But they wanted to get on with the fight back. I think it's limited appealing fight backs. Campaigning is not very easy to show on telly, but. They wanted, and they were right in the end, to get to the point at the end of episode 1 where they finally meet each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did.
Oh, the Fenny Compton scene.
Yeah, the Fenny Compton scene. So they were absolutely right. I was wrong, they were right. It does happen.
Yeah.
So that the fight back, because the fight back took years.
Yeah.
The whole thing, Alan Bates still hasn't been compensating. It's 25 years.
It's very frustrating. Actually, ITV have very kindly provided us with a video they've made about the impact of Mr. Bates. Let's see if this can make this one work. So you've already suggested you had a lot to do with Alan Bates in the writing. Was that? Was he sort of heavily involved after the initial interviews? Did he
Yes, we always kept him up to date, and
Right.
he came to everything. He came to set sometimes, and he was just he just knows everything. I mean, the house that you saw that they lived in, they so didn't live in a house like that. Obviously, it's a National Trust property in a beautiful valley. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, they're really terrible arguments with the director. Go, it'll be fine. I mean, it's rented. God. And Alan said, but Suzanne was very worried about it. She thought they would get real earache and trolling from people. Where have you got the money for this house? And Alan just said, he just used to say to everybody, oh yeah, and the hills and the mountains and the valleys, they're all ours too. So he has got the driest sense of humour. He's the most English, dry as a bone, very funny man, and was completely involved in the way through.
Okay.
I can tell you that when we showed him the film, right at the end, we showed it to him, he hated it.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was awful. Yeah, we had me and him and Suzanne went for a nice lunch in Battersea Corrid. It was pouring with rain, and she went, I never wear clothes as scruffy as that. And he said, it just doesn't, it's just not me. Yeah. So that they were fine. I mean, we're still friends, but they were disappointed. So then we go to the screening of it, and they sat in the screening with all the journalists and all the other sub-postmasters, and in the quiet moments in this dark room at BAFTA screening, you could hear people go, and Alan was going. All over, he came around and said, okay, you were right and I was wrong. Because obviously it is a true story, and I'm really, Reithian in my determination to keep things as true as possible, but, the actors, they're speaking dialogue, not just yakking. We've got beautiful landscapes. It is. People ask why a drama had such an impact when other forms didn't, and it's because it's what drama was invented to do. It's been around how many 3,000 years or whatever. Not putting myself in the same bracket as Sophocles, obviously, but drama was invented to do this, to grab you by the throat. Care about me, laugh, cry, care. That's what it does. And obviously, Alan himself is very sort of, buttoned up and very English, would never emote in that way.
Right.
And poor old Toby Jones, Alan said to him, I'll help you every way I can. Oh, right, said Toby. Well, can we talk about your emotional life? No. There's a real clash of cultures between the sort of, emotionally warm London lovey and the very fierce. But, Alan, you never want to fall out with him. But he is so totally the man whose time came, isn't he? Only someone as full of self-belief and fury and just determined never to give up. He was just the perfect man for the job. And there we are.
Well, I suppose there aren't that many true stories with such a clear moral agenda. I mean, that must have been quite a,
Yeah, that's a funny one. I've got mixed feelings about that. That is a funny one because as a dramatist, it's kind of a cardinal rule. You want your bad guys to have some good elements, and you want your good guys to have faults. In this case, that was quite difficult because there was no redeeming features. And I used to be saying, meetings, everybody go, Paula Reynolds wants shooting. I go, no, I'm sure she's got some redeeming features. We've got to, she's human. Even I, in the end, decided that she probably wasn't. But I did try, because, you want to write Richard III. You want to get to the end of Richard III, and he's an awful man that ever lived, right? But you still care. It's a tragedy. You care about Richard. And I wanted to care about Richard Robinson. You don't. That was never going to work. So I, as a dramatist, feel that clarity was a bit of a shame, and it would be nice if the postmasters had been a bit more rubbish and the post office had been a bit more, had the odd moral moment, but that was not to be because that wasn't the story. The truth is, as you saw it, the truth was a very black and white universe, in that sense, not a very dramatic one, not a complex one. Our own lawyers, ITV lawyers, refused to allow me to write anything for Paula Reynolds, to write any scenes for her, to make anything up. And lots of lovely scenes I wrote, which were not hostile, because I was trying to do it, ended up on the floor because they were worried about libel. And I would say, how can you libel her? How could she fall any lower in the public You can't libel her. But anyway, I wasn't allowed to make anything up, so we had to go through all her public pronouncements, her speeches, not very many, her newspaper interview, hardly any, her emails as disclosed to the public inquiry and the court cases, and I had to get her dialogue out of them. Like dry, not every word that actress spoke was from an email or a written piece. Imagine. She's a brilliant actress.
Oh,
she,
Leah.
she must be,
Yeah,
Leah Williams,
yeah.
because and that was, out of that she had to create that character.
So even the scenes where Alan Bates goes to see her, you weren't able to use Alan Bates' version.
Oh, I was able to trusted witnesses like Alan.
Okay.
If Alan came back and he said this happened, then that was okay. I used him as my reporter.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, just stuff that she had, literally emails. It was horrible, very difficult. Yeah. But it worked. You know.
So generally, with a true story, how much artistic license do you give yourself for those invented moments, those private scenes?
Not much.
Not much.
I mean, there hardly were any. There were private scenes between the postmasters, but they were pretty much, well, in the case of private scenes between Alan and Suzanne, they were things Suzanne told me, because Alan obviously wasn't talking about that kind of thing. And he would say, "What's she telling you? Don't worry about it." So it was Suzanne who wanted me to write about her cancer diagnosis, because she said, "I want everybody to know that ordinary life was going on at the same time, that we were all going through this stuff for years and years and years." And Alan's going, "You didn't want them," he went along with it.
So very little was invented.
No, you don't invent stuff. What you mainly do is leave stuff out.
Okay.
So you probably notice that most families on the telly have one child. Most families don't have one child, they have 2 or 3 or whatever. But on the telly, it's really expensive to have more than one child. Every child has to have an educator and what's that word for someone who looks after someone's welfare, I can never remember.
Social worker.
No, I always want to say concierge. It would be chaperone.
Oh, chaperone.
Why do I want to say concierge? Chaperone. Every child has to have one. They're only allowed to work for half an hour, and then they have to go. Yeah. So one child each. Happily, most of these people are quite old. Didn't have children. So yeah, you reduce things, you simplify things. You make, or I do. I make. For instance, I'll have one scene do about 5 jobs. So one scene will give you the information that will actually have come from 5 different people, 5 different years, 5 different versions of that meeting. Layer it in to keep it moving.
Right.
Because people, especially this kind of story, it went on for years. And what you're always looking for in storytelling is you're looking for moments. Really, like realisations take a year. January one year you start going, I wonder if I should, January the next year, yeah, maybe I will. That doesn't work on the telly. So on the telly you just go, I've just realised. And see it happen, see the reason for it happening, see someone's mind change, see a decision. And so you'll often hurry things along to make it.
Or have them make that discovery when they're watching something on the television. I notice there's quite a lot of that.
Oh yeah, on the phone.
Yeah.
Because you've got to feel the discovery, you've got to feel what is motivating them to do the next thing. Because it's all about the next thing. It's about the big question is what happens next? How's this going to turn out in the end? That's what keeps people watching, isn't it? It's suspense. And you think it's suspense being very thrillery, very murder story, but actually all stories have a lot of suspense in them. How will this turn out? What's he going to do with that information? And where's the next scene? It's forward, driving forward all the time. And you do that by leaving lots out. And that's probably the main way in which it departs from reality. It's more exciting.
Yeah.
More eventful.
Life is boring, but it's sort of moving. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I once read an interview that you gave, and you made the comment that it was a sacred duty to entertain people, and that as a writer, you saw that as a terrific responsibility. I just wondered if you could explain that.
It's that, it's the tradition that we're in. People are working hard and, go through their lives. And we have the job of dancing about at the front and, you know, putting smiles on people's faces. And that's, you know, we're surrogates. And I believe that we need to take that responsibility seriously. It doesn't mean that everything has to be, you know, hee ha ha at all, but it doesn't mean any gags in every story. But I think it's really important that we take our responsibility to the people who pay our wages, which is the audience, to give them some answers and some sort of help to understand stuff. Because I see a lot of stuff on telly that I think is really just too grim and too sad and doesn't end well. And some of that stuff can be very good. Horror films can be amazing entertainment, but of course most horror films end well. Yeah, they end with the final girl walking away to the sunset or whatever. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just waffling really. I'm not saying anything very clever, but I feel that we must take the audience into account when we're writing. We must do stuff that they're going to enjoy. The stuff that will challenge as well, but stuff that is worth their time. You know, you're going to sit in front of the telly for an hour. I don't want to waste your time. That would be awful.
So it's like something that gives them something productive at the end of it, like helps them make sense of something or work their way through something difficult. Or so it's not just
something that gets somewhere.
Yeah,
it gets somewhere. That doesn't just and that isn't just my views and my opinions. I know it's into my opinions, not even me. So it's like it's my duty and my job is to tell the truth as far as I can and to entertain people. And I think even with Mr. Bates that was the case. We never expected it to be so big. We didn't know it was going to be this phenomenon. In fact, I mean, on the night of transmission, which was the night before transmission was New Year's Eve, and so we were all like in our pyjamas and post-Christmas. And we all got an email from our boss to say, no, look, it's going out tomorrow, let's not get our hopes up. There's very good stuff on the other side, and nobody wants to watch this kind of thing on New Year's Day. And then he said this classic thing, he said, it'll find an audience, which is what TV people say when they mean nobody's going to watch it. So we all went, oh, yeah, okay, he's probably right. Next night we all watched it, and the next day he rang up for the ratings and thought he'd misheard.
Oh,
and
really?
it just built and built and built because there was that pent-up demand to understand it. And also because I've thought about this a lot since, obviously, why did it?
Yeah.
You know, why did it? There were even some gags we did try to entertain. But I also think, what I feel most proud of is that we were broadcasting. We were really broadcasting. There's a lot of narrowcasting goes on. There's a lot of stuff made that people, that only speaks to a very small number of people. And maybe that's all right, I don't know. But I'm a broadcaster and I like maximum audience, maximum reach with everything. And I think, I don't know whether you'll agree with this, it's just a theory of mine, but you know, a lot of this kind of work, campaigning work if you like, comes very obviously and visibly from the left. You know, it comes with a political agenda, which is fine, you know, political agenda is fun, I'm not against that. But the thing with this story was there was no party politics to it at all. And I would challenge anyone watching it to have the first idea how anybody involved voted in the last election. Postmasters, production team, me. You can't look at this and see what the party politics is in it at all, because it's proper politics, it's power. How the powerless experience power. And I think that what that meant was that all the people who normally, and lots of postmaster type people who normally sit at home going, no, lefty woke rubbish, about campaigning things on the telly, did not feel put off by us. They felt included, that it was inclusive of all audiences with all political views. And I think that's quite rare. And I didn't set out to do that. It's just when I look back on it, I think that the size of the audience meant people felt included. Somehow we managed to include everyone. We had really been broadcasting. And so if I'm proud of anything, it's that, you know, proper broadcasting.
And it's probably what you were saying earlier about they are ordinary people you don't often see on the television, and that makes them so identifiable in their kind of David and Goliath fight against... Relatable, yeah, I hate that word actually. I mean, this is probably a good opportunity for us to ask if there are any questions from the audience, if you're happy to, if you're happy to hear any. Do you want some, please? Well, I think we're more or less out of time, are we?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we give Gwyneth and Helen as well a really warm round of applause?
I feel back from turning out on this horrible night.